Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And speaking of impact, our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, has been serving musicians with a commitment to quality, reliability, and exceptional service. Whether you need top-tier instruments, expert repairs, or trusted advice, they've got you covered. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. We know you don't have time to listen to lengthy professional development webinars, so we give you 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to help you be productive in this awesome career. And today I have the queen of organization and productivity here with me, you guys. Stay tuned because she's going to give you work and personal productivity tips that might seem obvious at first, but when you're in the middle school or high school band room and all the things are happening, sometimes we forget these things that can make our lives a little easier. So Erin Lilliefors is a middle school band director who's in Michigan. She's also a composer and she's a single mom. So that plays into a lot of organizational things she's going to bring to the table today. She's worked in a variety of schools, currently teaching middle school band, but she's done K-12. She's taught just in high schools, in a high school that had a huge program, rural, and all of these different types of programs, which have taught her a lot. So her years of experience and the different kinds of schools in which she has taught have made a big impact on what she's bringing to the table for us today. So welcome, Lily. Erin.
It's okay. It happens all the time.
I'm listening to my dog whine at the door. I'm like, I don't want to be distracted. And so I'm just going to call you the wrong name. Erin.
I get that a lot. It's one of those things. Actually, when I go up to anywhere and they say, what's the name? I go, Lilliefors. And they go, okay, Miss Fors. I go, no, whole thing. So okay. I get that. It's not a big deal.
Great. Well, welcome and thanks for being here with us today. Just tell us a little bit about you and how long you've taught and stuff, just so we get to know who you are.
Awesome. I'm Erin Lilliefors. I'm a middle school band director in Ann Arbor Public Schools in Michigan. I teach the head director at Forsyth Middle School. Prior to that, I was the associate director of bands at Pioneer High School, which is a pretty big high school program. And then I've also worked at a variety of positions, such as working K-12 in a little place called Morenci. And then I got my start in Texas. So occasionally, especially when I get excited, I get a little bit of a twang. It just has never left me after being there for 5 years. I don't know why. But yeah, I've been teaching for 15 years now. I've been a single mom for about 7 of that, which is great because my daughter is 8 going on 9 now. I also write music, primarily with RSM, Randall Standridge Music. I have one piece out right now with them that is going really well. And then another one coming out this spring and then hopefully more to come. So at least that's the plan. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I'm a very busy person. And then all of that trying to be organized, healthy, well, do all those things just like everybody else.
Oh, cool. You're going to share your tips and tricks with us today so everybody else can be chill and calm. And yeah, we got you covered, you guys. Next 20 minutes, stay tuned. One of the things we talked about before we got on the podcast was Erin's organization and communications with parents and community. This is a huge topic. I hear from people all the time. Parents are awful, blah, blah, blah. And knock on wood, I have had phenomenal experiences with parents. And I think communication is a huge part of it. That preemptive communication, whether it's, let me tell you something awesome about your kid before we have that other conversation later, or information about here's what's coming up with performances and all this. So talk to us today or here about the things that you do, maybe starting with your idea that you shared earlier about front loading information. Let's talk about what you do there.
Yeah, so I'm a big person on front loading things. So like you said, I have to be really organized. And one of those things that I equate like front loading information for parents to, I equate it to doing my meal prep for the week. So like we're band directors. We don't have a whole lot of time. It's not like we're going home unless you live like across the street from your school. And I've lived that life. Don't recommend. But I will say that like you have to, if you're going to eat healthy, you have to plan for that for the week. You have to cut the carrot sticks. You have to put the Tupperware together. You have to live in Tupperware, hell, if you will. But like you have all those things and you have it ready to go. So all you have to do is grab in the morning and go, right? It's already made. It's already ready to go. It's healthy. It's going to keep me full all day so that I'm not stopping and getting McDonald's. The same thing is true when you're communicating with your families and your community about what's going on in your program. So one thing that I do is I try to give them as much information as I can when I have it, as soon as I have it. So like at the beginning of the year, that's when we give out most of our information. We're like, okay, these are when all the concerts are. This is the dress code. This is what your kids are showing up for. And you go through like this thing. And then after that, the next important thing is to send the reminders. Because so you front loaded all the information. You've given it all to them at the beginning of the year. But you also can't like just give it to them at the beginning of the year and then not put in reminders, not continue communication afterwards. And I know that that seems like an obvious thing, but that has caused me to have, like, I would say a semi-regular letter home to my parents on Sundays. Not every week, just because sometimes if I do it every week, they'll tune out and because I'm being redundant. So it's a delicate balance of avoiding redundancy, but also, giving them enough new information so that they know to always read my emails with all the newsletter information in it. So one of those things that I do is like, obviously a lot of stuff is front loaded, but like when something's coming up, I begin the reminders 2 months out, 6 weeks out, etc. And then, like formatting wise, like I always try to make sure the most important stuff is closer to the top and bolded with who it pertains to. Is it everybody? Is it just your 8th grade? Is it just your jazz band? What is it who needs to know this information? Because the big thing that we're looking for is for your parents to have all the information. And so that when they're contacting you, what they're asking for is like, hey, I was a little confused about this. Can you tell me? You want that email. You don't want the email that's, what are you talking about? When did you give this information out before? Oh, I haven't seen this since August. It's December now and the concert's next week. That's what we're trying to avoid, is that reaction.
Yeah. So giving out that information and having it helpful, available, not just the one time. As nice as that would be, like, here's our calendar of the year. Could you just put it in your calendar and we'd be done with it? Life's not like that anymore. But
I know. Wouldn't it be great if they would do that? But then, parents, like even then you'll give them all the stuff at the beginning of the year. You'll say, okay, even at like the parent meetings when they all come to the school and you're like, okay, make sure you put this in your calendar. Parents will still schedule the family vacation whenever they want to schedule the family vacation, even if that's over your concert, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something, the other thing that you have to always remember is like the parents are ultimately in control of the schedule. And who you're communicating with is parents. You can talk to kids about stuff, but remember, they're a kid. They don't set that stuff. So it's just like if I depended on my 8-year-old to tell me when events were going on at her school and didn't read the newsletter, I have to make sure I'm paying attention to that. And so it's part of like just making sure that your parents are used to hearing from you. Like, oh, once a week, this is great. Oh, twice a week, or not twice a week, sorry, every other week. Do whatever it is that works for you.
I used to be different before I had children. This was hundreds of years ago now, but and this was before computers, but I was typing up letters like 3 times a week. Parents need this information. And then I became a mom and my kids went to school, and that first kindergarten trip home with the backpack, I'm like, oh my God, this is like what it's like on the other end. It's overwhelmed. So that whole perspective changed. Like, okay, if I'm on this end, what information is relevant? I can't filter through all this. It's too much. You have 83 flyers from the PTA and the this and the that. And it's just overwhelming. So I had you have a different perspective too after you became a parent?
No, I did too. So I used to just think that when I would send stuff out at the beginning of the year, then that was law and the parents knew about it. And let me tell you, I learned after being a parent, sending my kid through school going, okay, I need reminders, guys. You have to say, okay, Erin, and now this week you really need to send that permission form back to school so that she can go on the field trip. Okay, yep, got to do that. My bad. So sorry about that. But I'm human. the kid, so are the parents. And that's another thing to remember. They're just like us. So they're not going to remember everything. I would say that one of the things that I learned in like formatting is like, obviously all of the really important stuff, new stuff, goes towards the top. Also, I generally try not to start my newsletters with, you need to do this and this and this and this. It usually starts with, let me give a shout out to how awesome our 7th and 8th grade band are for getting straight ones at festival, or hey, this group did really great at this, or these people are in an honor band, and talking about how great the kids are first. Kind of like when you're going to send that parent email about a kid doing something dumb in your class, you don't start with the dumb. Right? Because the kids do the dumb.
As it is.
They will always do dumb things. So you don't start, you go, hey, I have loved Billy Bob, this whole year. They've been really fabulous. And then you go, however, today we had a moment. You don't just start with like, especially if it's the first time you've talked to the parents, be careful,
It's somebody's child, right? It's somebody's kid. And as frustrating as lots of them get, they're just little humans trying to figure out life. So yes, being gentle.
And our job is to just help them through the mistakes they make. I mean, it's one of those things that you just learn eventually. And you're a mom too. I said this to a parent once, and now I really do realize it. Kids lie. And and when you catch your kid in it, like the biggest thing as a parent that I've noticed is that my job is to like confront the problem, but also like help guide them. It's almost the same thing with kids when you're teaching them is like, okay, they're going to do something dumb. Now you have to decide like, is this where I'm going to help you with this? Like where do we develop the connection from doing something dumb? Because that's the other thing, your principals are always going to be on you about how connect with the kids. That's how you have good classroom discipline, right? Well, that is how you have to get to know the kid. And when they do something dumb, is your first thing to be punitive and throw the book at them, or to go, now, why would you do that? What's going on? And that's a whole different approach, Yeah.
And they respond very differently.
They do. They respond differently when you're not throwing the book at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or then when you do have to throw any of the book, there's a different response because you've handled it differently. And then they're like, yeah, okay, I get it now. Like I did festival on Tuesday and their kid made a poor choice on Monday and was not allowed to go, but it was no contention. There was an apology note written in my box today. But it was because I'd had multiple conversations with a parent. Everything had been positive. And so the parent listened and believed what happened and the kid fessed up to it. But it was like we had that relationship before. And then the other thing you're talking about too is when we're emailing parents, everybody out there knows I'm a ChatGPT fan. I've written my custom GPTs and the like, and using it, why not use it whether it's a single parent email, like to a single parent or to the whole group or whatever, telling ChatGPT, I need you to write an email to students of parents of my students. Here's what I want them to know at the end of it, or I want them to take this action, and then give the details, and it will format it in a way like the bullet points. If you want, you can look at it and say, no, that's not clean. I'd like it a different way, and it'll reformat it. So, because often the visual is super important. We were talking earlier, what's highlighted or what's, the bullet points.
What's the bullet point on there? So and that's the other thing. And, the thing is that you don't want to hide the important information. And so when you're looking at it, you have to decide so I'm reminding the parents of this and this and this, we're going through this. Is the important information in some way hidden or tucked away? Did I put it in between reminders about where to buy? Did I put the concert date between reminders about reads and like a March Madness competition? Or did I put it at the top where they're going to see, remember, your spring concert is in 2 months, or whatever it is that you need to do for that. But that's one of the things that I've noticed is like trying to make sure that things aren't tucked away. A lot of times, especially if you're using like a school messenger or something that's preloaded through your district, you can go in and format it, like you said, with bullet points, highlighting things. I tend to put in like sections. So like if it's just something that 8th grade needs to know, like high school band auditions, I'll just write 8th grade only. And then usually find a way to make that look different so that only the 8th grade parents are looking at this. And a lot of times it might say a link to another page where I have the information so that it's not confusing. So they can go, oh, this is the link to that email that she has all the high school audition music in. I can find it again. And that usually is what helps.
And when we don't take the time to format things like that, and it becomes too confusing or overwhelming to a parent who's busy, maybe like English isn't their first language or something like that, then they just stop and they don't get or read the information. So then nobody wins. We want to facilitate and help them so that they can help their kids to be successful in our programs.
Absolutely.
And we're a team in that. And this is a big, big piece of it. Communication is so huge. And you talked earlier too about communicating the positives, like, hey, we're really proud of the kids for having done this, or we're in triple digits in the essential elements book this week. Just celebrate their children. Celebrate them. Yeah.
And the thing is, we have so much information about all the things that are coming up and all the things that we're doing, because as a band director, you're always thinking several steps ahead, like when you're preparing for, like, let's say we're preparing for festival or something like that, right? Or whatever your state assessment is, you're thinking, when you first pass the music out, you're thinking about what the end goal is already. Like, what should it sound like by the time we're done so that I can plan out my curriculum and all that stuff. And so for us, that's where we are always trying to like give our parents all the information in a structured way, but then we forget, just like how sometimes we forget to tell our students that we're proud of them, which is also important to do. And more than after the performance, more than being critical, tell them every day, because so many students need to hear from an adult that someone's proud of them, that someone loves them, and it's okay to be that person in their life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions for you, but before we get there, I just want to take a moment and shout out our podcast sponsors, the Empower Music Educator Academy and Kennelly Keys Music.
As band directors, we know that success is all about preparation, whether it's in the classroom, on the podium, or behind the scenes. That's why the Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you master time management, reduce stress, and create sustainable routines that keep both you and your program thriving. And when it comes to ensuring your musicians have access to top quality instruments and services, Kennelly Keys Music is the name to trust. From rentals and repairs to expert advice and outstanding customer service, Kennelly Keys is committed to keeping your program running smoothly. Visit KennellyKeysMusic.com today to explore their offerings and experience the difference of working with a company that truly cares about music education. Now, back to the show.
All right. We are back with Erin Lilliefors. Got your name right this time. See, I'm a slow learner, but I do eventually learn. We talked a little bit at the beginning of this about your work in composition, because you were telling me how you found as a middle school band director that the music that was there many, many years ago was not what you needed to help your students. And yes, you're the last 10 years, it's been phenomenal what's come out for the easier grades. But you didn't have that when you needed it. So where did that lead you?
Yeah. You're right. That's kind of how I got into the idea of doing composition. Like when I first started teaching, I was like fresh out of undergrad. I was trying to figure out how to teach. And sometimes I'm still trying to figure out how to teach. It's 15 years later. Still,
37 years later.
Exactly. I think we all have that aspect of there. We don't have everything perfect, but like I remember distinctly like looking at some of the music that was in my library and going, oh my goodness, I have a band of less than 40 and I have 4 clarinet players and there's a 3-part split in this middle school grade 1 by, I don't even remember who it was at this point in time, but I was just going, what am I taking to, UIL at that time? And it was so like, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be, something else there. So I started doing my own like really easy arrangements. I was co-directing at the high school band at that time. So I was arranging like little tiny pep tunes or things like that for the kids to play at football games and stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, I can do that. That's not so bad. And then, rewriting parts, I got into that. And then finally I decided, I'm like, well, why don't I just try like, writing my own thing. I had messed around with it when I was in college and I decided to get back to it. And so I started writing my 5th year of teaching, and I started getting into it. And then the piece that I wrote then is now published through Leading Tones Music. It's called Sundancer Fanfare. It's really cool. And it's a flex piece. That was the other thing that I realized, even back before we went through COVID, I wanted things where I could choose what part my kids played because I didn't have great instrumentation. I wanted to be able to choose my part distribution. And so I still think even after COVID, there's a huge need for flex music. And especially because I was in the rural districts and I was like, I don't have a bassoon. I barely have an oboe. What are we doing here? And, having that many kids on a clarinet, I just, it's really hard. So, and everybody wants to play the dang saxophone, which we all know. Sorry, I'm a tuba player here. So everybody wants to play the dang saxophone. So we end up with that whole thing where I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. So I applied, went to some graduate school for a little while at Eastern Michigan. And then I got a job teaching because I had just moved back from Texas. I was trying to find something to do. So I was like, I'll go to graduate school and start composition, right? That's what I want to do maybe a little bit more with anyway. So I took a little break. I was going to go like once a year or something and take a class. And then I got married, had a baby, I got divorced, a whole bunch of life happened. And then I ended up going back again during COVID, trying to finish my master's because it had been 8 years at that point. And if you don't finish it in a certain amount of time, you start losing your credits. So when I talked to the dean and they're like, geez, we're so sorry about that. We've discontinued that composition program. And I went, So thank you to my education professor, Heather Schuldis through Eastern Michigan, and she let me pivot to education. I have a fabulous relationship with her now because we talk about all kinds of things with, music education and things like that. And because of doing that, I think that it also gave me even more of a perspective on like what I write now. So like one of the things that I like to write, I really love to look for things that are like folk melodies, things that our students can get into that are from different cultures or cultures that we don't hear a whole lot of. So one of the pieces that just came out that I wrote last year with RSM was Tick, 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 Ya, which is a Lebanese piece. And that's not a culture that we have a whole lot of representation from in our band music. And so I tried to stay as true as I could to the culture and what was written. And I also tried to keep it within an octave so that it could stay a grade half, because there's another place that needs to have more music. Yes. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're a middle school director, you're like, I need more stuff that's within 8 notes, and not high, like low. Right. So I worked on putting that together and it's become a big hit. And I really love that piece. And then I've got another one coming out here really soon this May with RSM called Perilous Seas. It's a swashbuckly type piece, but man, as a low brass player, I had to write something that had some low brass melody because goodness knows your tubas and trombones need some love, guys. And you have to give them something to do. And so I wrote it with that in mind. It starts almost immediately with low brass melody. And that's like a big thing for me. And still like where I continue to write is writing things that are for like cultures that need more, representation, and writing things that will give more of our instruments more to do,
Sounds like you're filling a huge niche. I know there's a lot more people doing this, but as a middle school band director, there can never be enough. I am super excited to hear about this. Where can people find your music so they can look at it and maybe get it?
So you can find my music on JW Pepper. Right now, like I said, Tick, 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 Ya, which is the Lebanese grade half that I wrote, is available there. Perilous Seas will be available there in the next month or so. And then if you're looking for some older works, you have to go to Leading Tones LLC, Leading Tones Music. But there's some flex music that I've written on there. One piece that I'm particularly proud of is called Violet Dawn. And it is a pentatonic piece that uses improvisation in the concert band.
Oh, cool.
On the pentatonic minor scale, D minor, actually, I think. It's really fun. The kids love it. And you can do improvisation and it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yep. That's great. Well, you guys, we're going to put links to this in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't be trying to Google it right now. We're going to have all that there handy for you. So all you got to do is click the link. I know I want to check some of this out. There's a couple of those that have me super excited now. So thank you so much for being here today, Erin.
Thank you.
I appreciate your wisdom and your helpful tidbits, and her bit about communication is super important. If anybody out there is struggling with how to do it, use ChatGPT, reach out, do a 15-minute call with me. I'll teach you how to do that because it can again, front load stuff and save yourself so much time and effort, and parents will appreciate it and your whole program will go smoother. So lots of good information crammed into 20 minutes today.
Oh, talked really fast. Sorry about that. Good thing I'm permission so I can speak fast.
So everybody listened fast, right? Great.
Yes.
So that's a wrap for this episode of Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Thank you, Erin, and to all of you out there who keep showing up every day to teach kids music. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. Thanks for listening, and keep making a difference in kids' lives through the magic of music education.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you to Kennelly Keys Music, our platinum sponsor, for their unwavering support of music educators like you. Whether you need instruments, accessories, or expert advice, their team is ready to help. Thanks for listening, and keep making music happen.